Maybe that's the whole time. Just a bumper.
Is this yours? We will begin in just one moment. In the meantime, if you all could look at the invitation and see that there is a link for a prayer book for Mishkan Tefillah, which is actually, I believe Temple Israel is making a chat notice. You want to pick that link so that you can participate in this morning's service.
Look who's looking at you, Max. It's everybody you know really well.
Max, I'm gonna have you scoot a little bit over, okay? A little bit more than that. A little bit more? No, I'm just messing with you. I just want to say Shabbat Shalom to everybody. We are so excited to be able to celebrate with Metz and his family this morning. Even if we are not all together in the same room, we are all together in this sanctuary together, which is our virtual sanctuary. For those of you who have not used this Siddur yet, you'll notice it looks a little bit funny. Each of the pages on the right-hand side of a page, if you can tell which is the right and the left, is the prayer in the Hebrew, followed by a direct translation. And on the left page,
so her child is the first cousin.
And on the left page, it is going to be a some type of a poetic interpretation that is not quite so literal of the prayer. And so Max will do one of those, and then we'll turn to the next page. So it might seem like we have a lot of turning. Hopefully you've seen now the link that Rabbi Solo has put up there, and you can follow along with us. So thank you, and until it's your turn to participate, we ask that you please mute yourself so that it doesn't interrupt the flow of the service. Thank you. We'll begin with Hine Matov.
הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד.
We will now continue on page 72. And I'm going to invite John and his mom to come up to present a tallis to Max.
I know.
I want to see the little itty bitty one. I think we should try with that.
Looks like a dead.
Hey, Max. So this was your grandfather was Leo's Thomas. That was your dad's, or your grandfather's. That was mine, and now it's yours. This is a passing of the tradition. I'm not sure how often it was worn.
No.
Maybe not a whole lot,
But it means a lot.
but it does mean a lot. So,
Looks good on you, Max.
love you.
Love you too.
Next one is blessings. Page 72. Perfect. Yes.
As I wrap myself in the talit and fulfill the mitzvah of my Creator. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahit hatef b'tzivsi.
Now we continue with Matovu, page 74.
We continue on page 74 with Ma Tovu. Ma Tovu, Ma Tovu, O'alecha Yaakov, Mishkanotecha Yisrael, Ma Tovu, Ma Tovu, O'alecha Yaakov, Mishkanotecha Yisrael. Vani berov chesdecha, ahavot bitecha, eshtachavicha l'kodechecha v'yiratecha, ma tovu, ma tovu, o'alecha Yaakov, mishkanotecha Yisrael, ma tovu, ma tovu, o'alecha Yaakov, mishkanotecha Yisrael. Adonai ahavti me'on bitecha, u'mekom mishkan kvodecha, v'ani eshtachave v'echra evrecha lifnei Adonai osi, ma tovu, ma tovu, o'alecha Yaakov, mishkanotecha Yisrael, ma tovu, ma tovu, o'alecha Yaakov, mishkanotecha Yisrael. V'ani tefilati lecha, Adonai et ratzon, Elohim berov chesdecha, Elohim berov chesdecha, aneni be'emet yishecha, ma tovu, ma tovu, o'alecha Yaakov, mishkanotecha Yisrael, ma tovu, ma tovu, o'alecha Yaakov, mishkanotecha Yisrael, mishkanotecha Yisrael.
Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe. With divine wisdom, you have made our bodies, combining veins, arteries, and vital organs, into a finely balanced network. Wondrous maker and sustainer of life, were one of them to fail. How well we are aware. We would lack the strength to stand before you. Blessed are you, Adonai, source of our health and strength. Baruch atah Adonai, Rafeh kol basar u'mafli la'asot. My God, the soul you have given me is pure. You created it, you shaped it, You breathed it into me, and you protect it within me. For as long as my soul is within me, I offer thanks to you, Adonai, my God, and God of my ancestors, source of all creation, sovereign of all souls. Praise are you, Adonai, in whose hand is every living soul and breath of humankind. Baruch atah Adonai, asher ba'yado nefesh kol chai, ruach kol basar ish. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lachzevi bina levapin ben yom uvein laila. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, zokeh kefufim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, rokach haaretz al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamichin mitzadei gaber. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Malbish Sharumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hanoten la'ed koach. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hama'avir she'ena ma'enai utnuma me'apokai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Shasani B'Tselem Elohim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Shasani Ben Chorin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Shasani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Ozer Yisrael Begavurah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Oter Yisrael B'Tifarah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. We turn to page 88. These are things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world, while the principle remains in the world to come. They are honoring one's father and mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study in morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer, and making peace among people. But the study of Torah encompasses them all. We continue on page 106.
Vitkada Shemir Rabba Belma Divrach Yotev Yamlik Malchute Bechai Echonu Yomechon Ubchayedeko Bet Israel Bagala Bagala Uvizman Kariv Vehimeru Amen. Yehi Shemir Rabba Mevarach Le'ala Mulal Me'al Maya Yitbarach Yitbarach V'Shabach Yitbahar V'Dramam V'Yitnase V'Yitchadar V'Yithalal Shemir Dekudesha B'Richu Le'ela Mikol Birchata V'Shirata Tushbechata v'nechemata damiran be'alma v'himeru. Amen. We ask those that are able and willing to please rise for the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or uvarei choshev oseh shalom uvarei et hakol. Ha'ma'ir la'aretz v'ladarim alaha v'rachamim uvtuvo mekadesh b'chol yom tamid. Ma'aseh v'reishit ma rabu ma'asecha Adonai kulam b'chachma asita mala ha'aretz kinyanecha titbarach Adonai Eloheinu al shavach ma'aseh yadacha va'al me'orei or she'asita yefarucha selah or hadash al Sion ta'ir v'nizke kulanu mahera le'oro baruch atah Adonai yotzer ha'me'orot. How deeply you have loved us, Adonai, our God, gracing us with surpassing compassion on account of our forebears whose trust led you to teach them the laws of life. Be gracious to us, teaching us as well. O merciful one, have mercy on us by making us able to understand, discern, to heed, learn, and teach, and lovingly to observe, perform, and fulfill all that is in your Torah. Enlighten our eyes with your Torah. Focus our minds on your mitzvot. Unite our hearts in love and reverence for your name. That we will never feel shame, never deserve rebuke, and never stumble. Having trusted in your great and awesome holiness, we shall celebrate your salvation with joy. Gather us in peace from the four corners of the earth and lead us upright to our land. For you, O God, work wonders. You chose us. Truly, you drew us near to your great name, that we might acknowledge you, declaring you one in love. Be praised be you, Adonai, who chooses your people, Israel, and love. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher be'amo Yisrael ba'ahava.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. You may be seated if you were standing.
V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha v'chol me'odecha v'hayu adbarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinamtam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shirtecha bebeitecha u'leftecha al haderech u'v'shabecha u'humecha Ukshortam od al yadecha, v'hayu letotavot b'neinecha, uktartam amizuz beitecha, u'v'yisharecha. L'ma'an tizkaru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai, v'hayitem kiddushim le'Elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim Li hayot lachem lelohim ani Adonai Elohechem. The eternal truth is that you alone are God and there's none else.
Page 121.
May the righteous of all nations rejoice in your love and exult in your justice. Let them beat their swords in the plowshares and their spears in the pruning hooks. Let nation not lift up sword against nation, nor learn war anymore. You shall not hate your brother or sister in your heart. The stranger that sojourns with you shall be accepted as your equal, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Why do you crush my people and oppress the poor? Asks God. We know that the Eternal One defends the poor and upholds the rights of the needy. Praise to God Most High. Blessed is God and deserving of blessing. Please turn to page 122.
Mi chamocha b'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora teilot osefela, nora teilot osefela. Shira chadasha shibchu gehulim, l'shimcha sfat hayam, yachad kolam u'kumim lifu ve'amru, Adonai imloch leolam va'ed, Adonai imloch leolam va'ed, Adonai imloch leolam va'ed. Sur Yisrael, Kuma be'ezrat Yisrael, ufedei chinumecha Yehuda v'Yisrael. Go'alenu Adonai Tzavaot Shemo, Kadosh Yisrael. Baruch Ata Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. Ask you to rise if you are able. God has blown the marketplace away. There is a song on the wind and joy in the trees. Shabbat has arrived in the world, scattering the song in the silence of the night, and eternity utters a day, and eternity utters a day. Yai dai dai, yai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai, yai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, Adonai Sfatai Tiftach Ufi Yagid Tehillatcha.
Baruch Atah Adonai Melech haolam. Oh, right. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu Ve'imoteinu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Hasedim Tovim Ve'konei Hakol Ve'zocher Hasta'avot Ve'imahot Umegigu Lalinei B'neihem Lema'an Shemo V'ahava Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen Baruch Atah Adonai Magen Abraham Ve'ezrat Sarah Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai Mechayei HaKol Atah Rach LeHoshiach Mechakel Hayim Bechesed Mechayei HaKol B'Rachamim Rabim Somek Noflim V'Rafech Olin Umatir Asurim Umekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar Michamocha Ba'al Geburot Umidom Allah Melech Mimitu B'Chayei Yom Atmir Yeshua V'ne'eman Atal Ha'ayot HaKol Baruch Atah Adonai Mechayei HaKol.
לקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי הרום, ככתוב היה נברך וקרא Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot, Melok Haaretz, Kevodo. Adir, Adirenu, Adonai, Adonenu, Ma'adir Shemecha Bechol Haaretz, Baruch Kevod Adonai Mimkomo. Echad hu Eloheinu, hu Avinu Malkeinu, hu Moshienu ve'Yashminu, ve'Rachamav le'enei kol chai. Ha'odei Adonai Elohim, Imloch Adonai le'olam, Elohai Tzion, ledor vador. Hallelujah. Ledor vador kidgod lecha, u'nitzach nitzachim kedushacha nakdish, v'shivchacha Eloheinu mipenu lo yamush le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh. Yismechu v'malechotecha shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechotecha shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Mekadeshi, Mekadeshi Shevi Shabbat, Kulam Yisbu, V'yitangu mitu v'cha Shabbat, Yismechu v'malechutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat, Yismechu v'malechutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Uvashvi ratzita bo v'kirashtu Shabbat. Chemdat yamim oto karata Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Zecher למעשה בראשית שבת, זכר למעשה בראשית שבת, ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג שבת, ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג שבת.
Our God and God of our ancestors, be pleased with our rest. Sanctify us with your mitzvot and grant us a share in your Torah. Oh, by the way, on page 134. Satisfy us with your goodness and gladden us with your salvation. Purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Adonai, our God, grant us your holy Shabbat as a heritage. May Israel, who sanctifies your name, rest on Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, who sanctifies Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai b'kadesh ha-Shabbat.
We continue together on page 137 for Ritzeh. Ritzeh, Ritzeh, Ritzeh Adonai Eloheinu, ve'amcha Yisrael, u'tefilhatam ve'avat tekabel, u'teil ratzon tamid, u'teil ratzon tamid, Avodat Israel Amecha. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levadecha, v'dirah navod, she'otecha levadecha, v'dirah navod.
We acknowledge with thanks that you are Adonai our God, and God of our ancestors forever. You are the rock of our lives and the shield of our salvation in every generation. Let us thank you and praise you for our lives which are in hand, for our souls which are in your care, for your miracles that we are experiencing every day, for your wondrous deeds and favors at every time of day, evening, morning, noon, O good one, whose mercies never end, O compassionate one, whose kindness never fails. We forever put our hope in you. For all these things, O sovereign, let your name be forever praised and blessed. O God, our Redeemer and Helper, let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Blessed are you, Adonai. Your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha el ulecha na'eh lehodot.
We continue together on page 140. Sim shalom tova uvracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu, ve'halko Yisrael hamecha, v'rachenu avinu kulanu kechad, v'hor panecha, ki v'hor panecha natatan lanu, Adonai Eloheinu. Sim shalom tova uvracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu, ve'halko Yisrael hamecha, Torat chayim ve'avat chesed, ve'avat chesed, u'tzedaka uvracha ve'rachamim, ve'rulim ve'shalom. Sim shalom tova uvracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu, ve'halko Yisrael amecha, v'tov ve'enecha levarech, v'tamcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שים שלום, טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים עלינו, והלכו ישראל עמך. We now take a moment for silent prayer and meditation. Ratzon imre fi ve'egyol libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri Adonai tzuri ve'goali ve'goali.
We turn now, just double checking. We turn now to our Torah service, which will be found on page 244. Oh, I see Rabbi Sobo's making sure we all have the page numbers. Thank you. I didn't get to see that before. So on page 244, we're going to begin our Torah service. I would like that if you are going to be doing an aliyah, which is one of the blessings before or after the Torah reading, or perhaps a translation, that you find your translation or your blessing now so that you have it ready, and then we're going to ask that you unmute yourself when your time comes. And if you're someone who is giving the blessing and you know your Hebrew name, feel free to call it out when the time comes. So if you are able, please rise as we take the Torah out of the ark.
In kamocha Elohim Adonai ve'in k'maasecha malchutcha malchut kol olamim u'memshalcha bechol dor vador Adonai melech Adonai malach Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed Adonai oz le'amo yitim Adonai varet et amo v'shalom.
This is our Torah. It has been passed down through every generation. It is our inheritance. And today we pass this down from parents down to Max and through all the generations as if they were here today.
Kim mitzion tetzei Torah, Kim mitzion tetzei Torah, Udevar Adonai b'Yerushalayim, Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, L'amo Israel b'Kdushato, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo, Gadol Adonai iti, Umama Shemo Yachdav, Lecha Adonai Hagedula, Hagevura, Hatiferet, V'hanetzach v'haod, Ki kol b'shamayim u'va'aretz, Ki kol b'shamayim u'va'aretz, Lecha Adonai hamamlacha, Ve'amid na'aseh lechol erosh.
You may be seated. There it is. So before we begin, we're going to have a blessing. Hopefully you can hear me. If you could hear me, Max, let me know if they're nodding. Is anybody nodding? Nobody can hear me. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
We could hear you.
Oh, you could. Excellent. Perfect. Okay. So today's Torah portion, the Torah portion today is, in actuality, the week is Shoftim, but since we know that Max has been working for so long on Parshat Shmini, which is such an important Torah portion, we are excited to have him read for us today out of Shmini. I don't think that you have a Torah commentary in front of you, but were you to be able to find this online, if you'd like to follow along, you could do so by finding it's Leviticus chapter 11, starting at verse 20. Let me make sure they can see you. Yes, they can. Perfect. All right, so for our first Aliyah, I believe we have Dylan Turner, who's going to be doing that lesson. Dylan, are you there?
Hi, yeah.
Perfect. Let's have you do the blessing.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorah.
Baruch Adonai habarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Do you want to do the first? You start with Kol Sher.
Kol sheretz ha'ol ha'oleh arba sheketzu lachem. Achetze tochelu mikol sheretz ha'ol ha'oleh arba asher lo yir'ai mimad agalav l'nater bahen ha'aretz. Ate lemehem tofelu et harbel minaho bihaswa leminehu bihargo leminehu biharga leminehu.
Yes, your clock, that was beautiful. And now I believe your cousin Benny is going to be doing the blessing after.
Yep. All right. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Okay. And for the translation, I believe that Eileen is going to be doing this. Eileen Holt Turner, are you there?
Yes, in a moment.
Okay.
Okay. All winged swarming things that walk on all fours shall be an abomination for you. But these you may eat among all the winged swarming things that walk on all fours, all that have above their feet jointed legs to leap with on the ground. Of these you may eat with the following: locust of every variety, all varieties of bald locusts, crickets of every variety, and all the varieties of grasshopper.
And now we continue with our second Aliyah, which I believe is going to be given by Sammy.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorah.
Baruch Adonai haolam va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
V'chol sheretz ha'ol asher lo arba raglayim sheketzu lachem. Ule'ele titama'u kohanogea v'nivatam ima ha'arev. V'chol hanaseh menivatam yichabes begadav v'tameh et ha'arev.
Okay, and for our blessing after, I believe Aunt Patty.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natatanu Torah tamet v'cholam v'choleinu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. And then for our translation, we have Terry.
Okay. But all other winged swarming things that have 4 legs shall be an abomination for you. And the following shall make you impure. Whoever touches their carcasses shall be impure until evening. And whoever carries the carcasses of any of them shall wash those clothes and be impure until evening.
Thank you. And now for the third Aliyah, we have, I believe Addison is doing the blessing before.
Baruch atah Adonai Hamorah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
And we'll continue on verse 26.
L'chol habehema asher hi mafreset harsoho v'shesa henena shosa v'giro henena ma'ala timeim hem machem kohanogea bahem yitma v'chol al-kapah v'chol ha'ayah ha'choleh al-arba'ah Timeim hang machem kohanogea benivatam igma ad ha'arev v'hanaseh et nivatam yichabes begadav v'tameh et ha'arev timeim hema lachem.
And I believe that Julian's going to be doing the second blessing. Julia?
Yes, okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'hayei olam nitapet lefneinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. And for our translation, I have that it will be Patrick Duchesne.
Every animal that has true hooves, but without clefts through the hooves, or that does not chew the cud, they are impure for you. Whoever touches them shall be impure. Also, all animals that walk on paws, among those that walk on fours, are impure for you. Whoever touches their carcasses shall be impure until evening. And anyone who carries their carcasses shall wash those clothes and remain impure until evening. They are impure for you.
And now for the first time being called to Torah as a bar mitzvah, I'd like to welcome up Baruch ben David, the Emily. If you would begin with your blessings. Baruch.
Baruch et Adonai hamavarach.
Baruch Adonai havarach ve'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamavarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. V'zeh hatameh b'asheret hosharet al haaretz chafolet v'achbar v'tzav l'minehu v'naka v'koach v'lakia v'chomet v'antishamet eileh hatameim lachem v'kol hosharet kol hanogea b'hem limotam yitma ad ha'arev.
Second blessing. Blessing after. It's up to you.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'hayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
And for our translation, I believe it should be Philip.
The following shall be impure for you from among the things that swarm on the earth: the mole, the mouse, and the great lizards of every variety, the gecko, the land crocodile, the lizard, the sand lizard, and the chameleon. Those are for you the impure among all the swarming things. Whoever touches them when they are dead shall be impure until evening.
And at this time, we are not going to be lifting the Torah, but I will hope that those of you who are at home might be able to see it a little bit, just a little bit, from your screens. Are at home and you're able, we're just going to rise to return the Torah to the stand at the moment.
Zot haTorah shesam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai v'yad Moshe. Yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai. You may be seated.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nevi'im tovim v'ratza b'divreihem hane'emarihim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah u'v'Moshe ado u'Yisrael amo u'v'nvi'ei ha'emet v'asedek. Vayosef od David et kol bachor Yisrael shaloshim alef. Vayakom ba'eleh David v'chol ha'am asher ito miba'alei Yehuda la ha'lot misham et Aaron ha'elohim asher nikra Shem Shem Adonai Tzvaot Yosher ha'kiruvim alav. Vayarkivu et Aaron ha'elohim al agala hadasha vayisa'uhu mibeit Abinadab asher ba'givah Uzzah va'achio b'nei Abinadab nohagim et ahagala hadasha vayisa'uhu mibeit Abinadab ba'givah Yim Aaron ha'elohim va'achio holach lifnei ha'aron.
Yep, we did. So you get to just do the lesson.
Okay. Baruch atah Eloheinu melech haolam sur kol ha'alamim sadik b'chol hadorot ha'el ha'ne'eman ha'omer ve'oseh ha'medaber Shachol Devara B'Mitzvah Sedek, HaTorah, HaAvodah, HaNe'evim, HaYom HaShabbat Hazeh, Shnatat Lanu, Adonai Eloheinu, L'Kedusha V'Limucha, L'Kavod, L'Tifaret, Ahakol, Adonai Eloheinu, Nachnu Modim La, U'Mefarchim Ota, Yitbarach Shem Habeficho Chayim, Tamid Le'olam Va'ed, Baruch Ata Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
For those of you who were not quite following along, that was our Haftarah portion. Haftarah, which came this morning, was from 2 Samuel. And for the translation, I believe we have Jack Worrell who's going to be doing that. Jack, you want to come on up?
You are prepared. Once more, David brought together Israel's best men, 30,000 in all. Then David and all the people with him went up from Bahaleh, Judah, to take up there the ark of God, on which is written the name of God, heaven's hosts, enthroned on the cherubim. They put the ark of God on a new cart and took it out of the house of Abinadab on the hill. Uzzah and Achio, Abinadab's sons, sorry about that, drove the new cart. As they brought it out of the Abinadab's house on the hill with the ark of God on it, Achio was walking in front of the ark while David and the rest of the Israelites were dancing before God to the sound of all kinds of instruments, including cedar, wood, harps, lyres, hand drums, rattles, and cymbals.
And now, this is an opportunity for you to share with us your devotional.
In my Torah portion, Shmini, we learn about the consecration of the temple, instructions for making sacrifices, and Aaron completing the first sacrifices as God had instructed. We then learn about Moses' nephews, Aaron's sons, Nadab and Abihu. They tried to make an offering that God didn't ask of them. It didn't end well. They were engulfed in a fire and died. We were told that Aaron stood there in silence after they died. The Torah portion then goes on to teach kashrut, the laws about what animals you can eat and ones you cannot eat. God tells us we can only eat animals that have split hoods and chew their cud, but they are kosher insects. If you were curious, locust is the most popular kosher insect. I find that very weird. Because my portion was about food, what we could use for sacrifices, and as well what you can eat and cannot eat, I chose to work at the food bank for my Mitzvah project. While I was at the food bank, I helped send food to people who may be hungry or not be able to buy food. This made me feel happy because I knew I was helping people who might need food that might not be able to afford it. It also talks about the different offerings they made. In the first part, my portion, I learned that David was afraid of the Eternal because he just witnessed Uzzah, the person carrying the ark of God, get struck down by lightning because Uzzah touched the ark of God. David, already becoming even more stressed, named that place that Uzzah was struck. It was named Peretz Uzzah. With David in Jerusalem, David had the ark kept at the house of Obed-Edom, and Hashem blessed him. After that, David had come to him directly. There's a lesson in my Torah and Haftarah questions. Think about your actions before you do them, or there might be consequences. This applies to the story of Nadab and Abihu and Uzzah. In my Torah portion, Nadab and Abihu saw their father make an offering to God. Without thinking, they made an inappropriate offering before Hashem. This was not acceptable, and they were engulfed in flames. In my Haftarah portion, Uzzah touched the ark of God. The ark was falling, and he tried to stop it. In doing so, he touched the ark, which is forbidden. This resulted in him being struck and killed by lightning. This is an important lesson for me as well. It reminds me to think about my actions before I do them. This lesson will help me as I grow up because this will become a factor as time goes on. I'd like to say thank you to my parents who have been loving and supported me since the day I was born. I learned so many things from you guys. You have helped me so much. Mom, I can't remember me being so frustrated with my homework assignment. And you were there, right by my side to help me. Dad, remember the time you helped me go up a hill on my bike only to fall face first into a giant trash can? Didn't happen. I'm so lucky to have you guys as my parents. Now let's have a big family hug. Thank you to my grandparents and aunts, uncles, and cousins for participating in my mitzvah service this morning. It means so much to me that you are here and a part of my big day. I would also like to say thanks to all of my family and friends who weren't able to be here today. Thank you for your support in watching and attending my bar mitzvah too soon. I really appreciate it. Hopefully, I will get to see you all very soon.
You did great. Really, really well. So, I wrote out a long speech. We'll see if I can go through it. I'm actually one of those myself. But Max, we are so proud of you. This was really, really, really beautiful. You know, what you did today was exceptional for so many reasons. I mean, because of the events, you know, that happened, your celebrations had to stop, your big celebrations had to stop, and then you were stuck with just mom life. A lot of it, we could postpone it. The goalposts kept on moving. But I think in some ways, all that made this experience a little more sacred and profound, however you define that, because we were forced to focus just on the events in this ritual today. So it made it, all the tangential elements were left, and it was just you. And you are the mitzvah. And one thing I think we also learned about this, I think the biggest lesson is adaptability. I mean, I think that is the most important lesson we learned out of it, how you learn to adapt, and you learn how to change. You know, what you did in of itself today, I think is the biggest deal is adapting. You know, everybody grows, but I think adaptability is what makes you a contributing adult, and that's what you did. There's a famous psychologist, not as famous as your anti-lean, called Viktor Frankl. And maybe someday you'll read him, maybe someday you won't, but this has always stuck with me. He said, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. And that's what you just did today. And also what you did today, I think, is really profound in a sense. I was talking with Uncle John, you know, John Sheridan, about how upset both Mommy and I were that we couldn't give you the celebrations that we think that you deserved, you know, 350 people, the big DJ, all that kind of stuff. But he said to me, he goes, isn't it the adaptability of the Jewish people for 4,000 years to have these events in the most inhospitable times? And that's what happened right there. In a real sense, this was an act of defiance. In a positive sense, you stood up there against everything where you could have easily said, I'm not going to do it. You said, I'm going to maintain my rituals, and I'm going to go on. And I'm going to keep on going one more second. There's also a poem I was reading, and Mom saw, it's a poem by Walt Whitman, and he talks about, he says, I'm large and I'm complex. And I think of you, because when he's talking about the poems, it's little small leaves of grass he's talking about, but each one of those is beautiful and complex. And you are complex, and you're beautiful, and you're brave, and you're courageous, and you're wonderful. And you've got all of that. And as you do that, even though I just labeled you, don't let anybody label you, and don't label yourself. Because you're going to change every day and embrace all those changes. And we love you so much. And we're so proud of you. You're awesome.
Ditto all the time.
Max, I'm gonna have you stand that way or that way, just to make sure that we're socially distanced so that people know we're trying to be as responsible as we can. Okay. But let's try and get you in screen. There you go. Just a little bit. Now we're both in screen. I have to tell you, first of all, Dawn, that was beautiful. And usually, you know, it's up to us to try to bring in Torah and make it relevant, and you did that for me. So I just want to say thank you. Because he hit it right on the head of the nail, which is that adaptability and positive defiance and carrying on traditions. It's been beautiful. I want to say, first of all, that are you the youngest of the grandchildren at this point? Right, so you're not used to being the first of things, right? That's probably not how you're known. But I want to say that you are so known as a first right now. Because first of all, this is the first service that I've been in this building since March. So you're the first person to be in here to be doing the service. You're the very first person in our congregation, in the history of our congregation, to have a bar mitzvah by Zoom here in this sanctuary of Israel. So Mazel Tov on this first, and for helping all of your family be able to be involved even though they were far away. I want to take a second to add to the Torah portion, if I could, which is there's a moment in it that's a little bit strange, which is when Aaron is watching and his sons, with very good intentions, as you pointed out, wanted to do something that was positive, and unfortunately, it didn't go the way that they wanted because they weren't quite thinking it through, right? And Aaron is watching that moment, and we're told that he's silent. He doesn't react, he doesn't respond, he's just silent, taking it all in. The next few Torah portions that follow, they talk about after mot, after death, and Kiroshim. We hear about how after the death of something or someone, we find out that there is holiness. And I think in a lot of ways, this bar mitzvah, I don't want to call it a death, but this was a disappointment, right? And you have been quietly accepting things as you've gone and said the only thing that matters is that my loved ones are safe. That was really important when we decided to postpone this. And I want everyone to know that this was the most important thing, that he didn't want anyone to come and to get sick. And so you stayed the course. And in that, and from that, you found holiness, this space, this special space, even in Zoom, right? Like this is a first. I feel holiness in this space because of you and what you brought to it. And the fact that you cared so much about your loved ones that you were willing to bring Torah into their midst this way. And that's a really big deal. I also think that this week's Torah portion has something relevant as well, which is it's Parashat Shoftim, which means judges. And in this week's Torah portion, we hear Tzedek, Tzedek, Tirdof. Justice, justice, you shall pursue. And I think if ever you had to be deferred to any other week, this would be a really great one. Because as your dad said, standing for what you believe in is so important. And I've seen that in you, and the fact that you really wanted to help out at the food bank and to help anyone who needed to, and to seek out the things that are right. Because I don't know that I've ever had a student, again, you're first. I've tutored and worked with over probably 200, 300 disappointed students from bar mitzvah. And I can say that I don't know that any of them have brought in their haftarah as part of their discussion, because you were so intrigued by the fact that they both had really good intentions and they just didn't think it through. And what do we want a judge to be? We want a judge to be fair and impartial, but also able to have compassion in those moments. And I think that as we learn about justice, you gave us some insight into that today as well. And so I wish you the heartiest of mazel tovs. You're an incredible, incredible boy who has taken on something incredible with your study of bar mitzvah and of Judaism, working with Sandy Sloan Brenner, who's been such an amazing, amazing guide for you. And you've done it your way, and you did it beautifully. And we are so very proud of you. And so with that, I'm going to ask those of you who can to rise, and I'm going to return the Torah to the ark with you and be able to bestow upon you the priestly blessing, which has been given in every generation. And in this case, for all of your relatives who have come before you, they've also stood before this ark. And I know that that was really important to your family, that we do this by Zoom in the way that we can still be here in the sanctuary for you to have that experience. We're really excited for that.
If you're able, please rise as we return the Torah to the ark. Eitz chaim hi lamachazikim ba v'tomchecha meusha darchei noam v'chol netivotecha Shalom Hashivenu Adonai Elecha V'nashuva Chadish Yaminu Kekedem Chadish Yameinu Kekedem.
Like all those who come before you in the time of Moses and Miriam, down through all the generations of Jews, not that you've known, but through all of the generations, including your own family, this blessing goes to you. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Ye'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha. May God's light shine upon you, and may God be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May you feel God's presence within you always, and may you find peace. We continue on page 282 in your prayer book with Alinu.
Aleinu l'shabach l'adon hakol, l'teis gidula le'otzeh breshit, shelo asanu k'goyei haratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam kelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu k'chol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech, Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
You may be seated. We turn now to page 285 in your prayer book, page 285.
Let the time not be distant, O God, when all shall turn to you in love, when corruption and evil shall give way to integrity and goodness, when superstition shall no longer enslave the mind, nor idle try the blind idolatry. O may all created in your image become one in spirit, one in service. Forever united in your service, then shall your realm be established on earth, and the word of your prophet fulfilled. Adonai will reign forever. V'imar.
V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz bayom ha'hu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad.
Max, not only am I your father, but I'm on the board of Temple Israel, so I get to present you with these gifts. So here is your certificate. Here's your certificate of Bar Mitzvah. Both for your original date and today's date, and the rabbi will have them both signed. And here is a Kaddish gift cup for you from the board. And then also this is a Turn for Torah gift certificate to attend summer camp, and this is also forward to the
That's $250 towards a trip to Israel.
towards a trip to Israel. So we'll go together, and mommy too. And then here, I'm to read this to you. This is from the Jewish Federation. Dear Max, tzedakah is the Hebrew word for acts that in English we call charity, and is derived from the word tzedakah, meaning righteousness, justice, and fairness. The giving of charity, the performance of righteous acts, therefore, is deeply ingrained in our Jewish ideals, values, and conscience. As you begin your adult life, the Benton family, through the Jewish Federation of Greater David, is pleased to present you with this beautiful, personalized tzedakah box crafted by artist Gary Rosenthal. It is our hope that this special day and this gift will inspire you throughout your life to connect your Jewish heritage through Masim Tovim, righteous deeds, Kum Olam, to repair the world, and tzedakah, charity. And so on behalf of the Benton family and the Jewish Federation of Greater David, Mazel Tov, may every occasion be as Huya Zisman, Joe, Nolan Benton, and Todd didn't even make fun of your name this time. So,
They'd like you to show the tzedakah box.
yes.
And that's, it may have the date of your original, but we're gonna have that changed.
It's very nice.
Sit down and have a little break for a moment. Okay. I'm very impressed. Beautiful job. At this time, we take a moment to think of those who are no longer with us. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and our neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. At this time, we think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us. We are in a period of Aninut for Hilo Weiskind, a period of Shiva for Shirley Ross, and a period of Shloshim for Ken Lotney, Maxine Weinberger, and Sidel Ballas, as well as Emily November. We also remember those who have died at this season in years past, those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. We are observing yard sites for Carmen Angel, Maureen Burke, David Cohen, Bernard Davis, Jay Dinhofer, Otto Farnbacher, Lillian E. Finn, Minnie Fishman, Marjorie L. Flagel, Harry Friedman, Henry I. Gleiwitzer, Oscar L. Goldfarb, Bernard Goldman, Jeanette Handler, Florence Hathcock Boyd, David L. Herman, Nancy May Hollander, Simon Knoplock, Emma V. Biddensberger, Rachel Levinson, Rabbi Colin Leviton, Fanny K. Margolis, Esther B. Meadow, Norman Miller, Leon R. Office, Walter Ullman, Ronald Predikin, Ida Rosenthal, Hannah Shiner, Boris Sokol, Benjamin C. Stein, Harold J. Stein, Saul Tandy, Samuel Tannenbaum, Molly Unger, David J. Weinberg, and Suzanne Wilkinson. And I invite you to call aloud where you are the names of any others you have in your heart who perhaps we wish to be with us on this wonderful day of celebration for Max, or perhaps to pronounce the name again differently. And I'll ask that if you are mourning, that you please rise first. We're going to be turning to page 294. And for all of us, we rise to show our support and our love with the words of Kaddish on page 294. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah Be'alma Divra Chirute V'yamlich Malchute V'chayechon V'yomechon V'chayei Dachol Beit Yisrael Ba'agala U'vizman Kariv V'imru Amen Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Le'olam U'lomei Almaya Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitroman V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitaled V'yitalal Shemei Dekudsha Berichu Le'ela Min Kol Birchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechamata da'amiran v'yoma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, l'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mamav, huya asei shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Zichronam libracha, may their memories always and only be for a blessing. You may be seated. And we'll continue with Osei Shalom, followed by our Kiddush and Motzi.
Osei Shalom b'mamav, uyaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, imru, amen. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, 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 yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael.
You're back up. Start with grade 3 Hakafen over the line.
Baruch atah Elohim haolam shekeshem v'mitzvotav. Grade 3 Hakafen.
Now you get to drink.
You have to.
Oh, it's just grape juice today. And I didn't touch the cup.
Baruch atah Adonai Elohim haolam hamotzi l'heaven haaretz.
Amen. You get to have some bread. Yep. This tiny. So this should be the easiest part. Come on. Good job. I just want to thank everybody again for being a part of this special day. Thank you for all being a part of this really special day. I know that Max is going to be looking forward to having you maybe make phone calls and say hello and tell him what a great job you did, or perhaps send emails the way that we do things now. But again, Shabbat Shalom. This is the day that God has created. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Mazel tov.
Mazel tov, Max. Great job. Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Mazel tov, Max. Shabbat shalom from your cousins in California.
Mazel tov, Max.
Mazel tov, Max. You did an outstanding job.
Awesome job.
Mazel tov, Max. You're fabulous and you're fun, and that's most important.
Mazel tov, Max, from your cousins in Washington, D.C.
Mazel tov,
Mazel
Max. We
tov.
love you. We would throw candy if we had it.
Hey, Max, congratulations. We love you.
It was Susan Gandhi and her husband. He's not well.
Danny.
I don't know.
I don't know how to do it.
Who's that? That's not
We,
Susan.
Mazel tov, Max, from your cousin in VT. Love you, buddy.
Yeah, video. I don't know how to do it.
Touch it.
Stop video.
Yeah, let's type something, right?
click up here at all? I'm on our box.
Oh, no,
Yeah, I mean in there. Here.
I did.
Hello?
You're not muted.
That's
Oh,
Eileen.
That's Eileen. Hi, Eileen. Alice and Bert.
Hi, Bert. Hi, Alice.
How are
You
you?
look great.
Yeah.
You look great.
Thank you.
All
So
the-
do you. It's great to see you.
Yes, it's not often enough.
Exactly, exactly.
Be well.
Yes, thank you.
I don't know how to do
Hello, everybody. Congratulations, Max.
it.
I'm gonna text. Oh, you think the microphone's bad, huh?
Push leave.
Judy offices.
Badly
Yeah,
injured,
Judy.
yeah.
Judy offices.
It was that, forgot to mute before talking about it. Good.
Okay, so we need to.
Everybody,